At 6:47 a.m., Marcus received the call every responsible person dreads. His mother's voice, sharp with blame: "Your sister totaled your $98,000 SUV. The insurance won't cover it. This is your fault." But Marcus wasn't panicking. Because while his family had spent years calling him paranoid for installing a commercial-grade dashcam system with cloud backup, that tiny green recording light had captured everything. Every lie. Every mile per hour. Every slurred word at 4 a.m. when his sister was supposed to be sleeping before a job interview. His parents demanded he pay the $57,000 insurance gap for her drunk driving accident. They called him selfish. The entire family turned against him. They didn't know he had the footage. What happened next didn't just vindicate Marcus, it transformed the family's mockery into a phrase that would spread beyond them, becoming shorthand for the one truth they'd refused to accept: preparation isn't paranoia when you know the pattern. This is the story of how one man's documentation became his fortress, and how the people who said he'd always land on his feet finally learned why. Marcus sat in his apartment at 6:47 on a Thursday morning, the phone's harsh light cutting through pre-dawn darkness. His mother's voice arrived before consciousness did, sharp and accusatory in a way that required no greeting. "Vanessa had an accident in your SUV. It's totaled. Why did you let her take it?" The question contained its own answer, a blade already twisted before he could speak. Marcus's keys rested on his kitchen counter where they always did, attached to a keyring he bought himself, beside the insurance folder he updated monthly, below the framed photo of nothing in particular because this apartment was his and required no justification. Every payment made from construction overtime. Every corner earned through the careful accumulation of hours that began before dawn and ended after dark. The apartment was small, yes, but entirely his own, a fortress of receipts and boundaries that asked nothing of anyone. He'd saved for 3 years to buy the Range Rover Sport. Midnight blue with leather interior that smelled of newness and autonomy. Advanced safety package costing an additional $4,200 because he'd learned that protection was worth paying for up front. The vehicle sat in his designated parking spot 3 floors below, or it had 18 hours ago, before his mother's voice explained that it no longer existed in any form he would recognize. "The insurance won't cover it," Patricia continued, her tone suggesting this was somehow a moral failure on his part. "This is your fault." Marcus remembered the previous evening with the clarity that comes from expecting disaster. He'd arrived at his parents' house at 7:30 for what Richard had insisted was a family dinner, no excuses, as if obligation could be summoned through repetition. Vanessa had been there, sprawled on the couch in the position of someone who'd made comfort into an identity. 23 years old and unemployed for 8 months, which his parents discussed only in whispers of potential and temporary setbacks. They'd paid her rent twice after eviction notices. Covered her car payments until the bank took the vehicle anyway. Built their lives around her comfort the way architects design around load-bearing walls, accepting the structure as immutable. Marcus had learned early to be invisible, to earn everything, to expect nothing. The oldest child's inheritance, self-reliance born of benign neglect dressed as confidence. "You've always been so capable," his mother would say, which meant she'd never worried about him because worry required attention. His phone buzzed again now, Patricia's voice rising with the desperate energy of someone defending a position they knew was indefensible. Marcus felt the old pattern closing around him. But this time something was different. This time he'd prepared. The dinner had progressed with the inevitability of minor tragedy. Richard carved pot roast with theatrical precision while Patricia served vegetables no one would eat. Vanessa mentioned, casually, that she had a job interview across town at 8 o'clock the following morning. Her first in months. The statement hung in the air with the weight of something rehearsed. Patricia seized it immediately, her face brightening with manufactured inspiration. "Marcus, Vanessa should take your SUV. Just for the morning." The suggestion arrived not as request but as solution to a problem only she could see. Marcus refused, his voice level and factual. He had a site inspection 40 miles north at 7 a.m. His job depended on reliability. The kind of dependability that required owning a vehicle he could trust would be where he left it. Patricia's face hardened into the expression Marcus had learned meant his needs were about to become selfishness. "You've always been selfish. Your sister is finally trying." Richard backed her with the smooth coordination of longtime partners. "It's just one morning. We raised you better than this." The suggestion evolved. Marcus could stay the night in his old room, let Vanessa take the SUV early while he slept. He refused again and stood to leave, but Richard moved to block the door with the casual authority of someone who'd never been physically challenged. "Give her the keys. We're not asking." Patricia's ultimatum followed like thunder after lightning: "If you walk out that door, don't come back." The choice crystallized in that moment, sharp-edged and binary. His keys or his family. Marcus felt the weight of the Range Rover fob leaving his palm, that small black rectangle he'd been proud to carry. He called an Uber, left in silence while his mother's voice followed him to the street. "This is why Vanessa needs help and you don't. You always land on your feet." The phrase was born in contempt, suggesting he didn't deserve sympathy because competence was its own punishment. In the Uber, city lights blurred past while his phone displayed his SUV's GPS location, still motionless at his parents' house. The smell of his mother's pot roast clung to his jacket. He would associate that scent with betrayal for the rest of his life. Marcus spent that night in his apartment, staring at his phone, watching the GPS marker that represented 3 years of saving. At 3:47 a.m.
3 months earlier,
moving. Marcus had installed a Dashcam system in the Range Rover. Toward downtown. Not the standard retail version sold to nervous drivers, but a $2,400 commercial-grade system with 4 cameras, front, rear, interior, driver-facing. Cloud backup. GPS tracking. Motion sensors. Impact detection with automatic upload. The same system his construction manager used for fleet vehicles after an insurance fraud incident that cost the company $34,000. Marcus had learned the lesson without needing to pay the tuition: document everything, especially with family. At 19 he'd loaned Vanessa $3,000 for emergency rent. She'd spent it on a vacation to Miami, then denied ever receiving it. His parents believed her. He had no proof. At 24 his parents borrowed his previous car for a weekend, returned it with front-end damage, claimed it was already there when they took it. His insurance rates doubled. He had no evidence to contest their memory. The pattern was clear, inevitable as water finding cracks. Vanessa's problems became his problems, and truth was whatever his parents needed it to be. So Marcus built a fortress of documentation. The dashcam was merely the most visible defense. His apartment walls held a filing system worthy of a tax attorney, every family financial interaction dated and labeled, text screenshots backed up in 3 locations, email trails preserved in dedicated folders. The folder labeled "Family" was 2 inches thick, 5 years of protection compressed into paper and cloud storage. His mentor at the construction site, James, had taught him the principle through his own expensive education. James was 52 now, still recovering from co-signing a loan for a brother who declared bankruptcy and disappeared. "Protect yourself with paper," James had said while reviewing Marcus's first filing system. "Family will bleed you dry if you let them. Love doesn't require financial suicide." The small green light of the dashcam had glowed steadily in the Range Rover's windshield for 3 months, a tiny guardian that asked nothing and forgot nothing. Marcus had tested the system weekly, watching footage upload to encrypted cloud storage where it would remain until he chose to delete it. The satisfaction was quiet but absolute, knowing that truth was being preserved in real time, immune to revision or selective memory. That night, as the GPS showed his SUV weaving through downtown at 4:17 a.m., Marcus didn't panic. He opened his laptop and watched the dashcam footage, live and undeniable. Vanessa wasn't alone. The interior camera revealed everything with the cruel clarity of modern technology. Vanessa sat in the driver's seat, club dress riding up, makeup smeared in the pattern of someone who'd been dancing. Two friends occupied the back seat, music blasting through the Range Rover's premium sound system. No job interview clothes. No folder of resumes. No evidence of anything resembling professional ambition. Vanessa's voice cut through the music, her words slurring slightly. Marcus is such a tight ass. This thing drives like butter. The speedometer display in the corner showed 68 miles per hour. The street signs visible through the windshield indicated a 35-mile-per-hour zone. Downtown streets stretched empty and wet from earlier rain, the asphalt reflecting streetlight in patterns of false safety. One friend leaned forward with a phone, filming Vanessa from behind. "Post this. Show everyone little perfect finally loosened up." Vanessa accelerated through a yellow light turning red, laughing. "He always lands on his feet. Watch this." She took the next corner too fast, unfamiliar with the vehicle's weight of 5,467 pounds, the advanced braking system designed for control not recklessness, the rain-slick streets that punished overconfidence. At 4:23 a.m. she overcorrected. The Range Rover's stability control attempted compensation but she fought it, making everything worse. The SUV slid, rotated, clipped a parked sedan, then spun into a concrete light pole at 52 miles per hour. Impact detection triggered instantly, dashcam footage began automatic upload, GPS marked the exact location, timestamp preserved to the second. 4:23 and 37 seconds a.m. 6 airbags deployed in rapid sequence, the expensive safety system Marcus had specifically paid extra for. The interior camera captured everything, Vanessa screaming, friends crying, the acrid smell of deployed airbags filling the cabin. Then silence, punctuated only by the rhythmic clicking of hazard lights. Marcus watched from his apartment, the laptop's glow the only light in the room. He recorded his screen as backup, a redundancy that felt necessary given what he was witnessing. The sound through the dashcam carried perfectly, metal shrieking, glass shattering, then eerie quiet. His heartbeat remained steady, controlled. He wasn't shocked. He was prepared. At 4:41 a.m. police arrived, red and blue lights strobing across the wreckage. Ambulance followed at 4:47 a.m. Vanessa and her friends were helped from the vehicle, walking but shaken. At 5:15 a.m. Vanessa called their parents. Not Marcus. Never Marcus. He saved every file, backed it up in 3 separate locations, and waited. At 6:47 a.m., right on schedule, his mother called. And she blamed him. Patricia's voice carried the shrill panic of someone whose narrative was collapsing but who hadn't yet realized it. Marcus remained calm, his responses measured and factual. "I didn't let her take it. You and Dad forced me to give her the keys." Patricia's reply came fast, defensive. "She needed it for a job interview. You should have made sure she knew how to drive it." The lies cascaded with the momentum of desperation. Vanessa had told them she'd been driving carefully, completely sober, heading to her early interview when some drunk driver ran a red light and caused the accident. Single vehicle collision. Vanessa's fault. Her story required the invention of a phantom drunk driver who existed only in her telling. The police report told the truth with bureaucratic precision: single vehicle accident, driver at fault, blood alcohol content 0.11, legally intoxicated. Citations issued for DUI, reckless driving, excessive speed, running a red light. The list read like an indictment of every assumption his parents had ever made about their youngest child. At 9:33 a.m. Marcus sat in the insurance office under harsh fluorescent light, paperwork spreading before him like evidence at trial. The adjuster's voice carried no sympathy, only policy. His comprehensive coverage was void for this incident. DUI accidents fell outside the protection he'd paid for monthly. Total loss, $98,000 SUV reduced to $14,000 salvage value. Marcus still owed $71,000 on the loan. The gap was $57,000, his responsibility, a number that represented more than a year of careful saving obliterated in 6 minutes of someone else's recklessness. His phone buzzed constantly, each notification another family member weighing in with judgment. The family group chat had exploded into a chorus of condemnation, all aimed at him. Marcus always was selfish. He has a good job, he'll be fine. Vanessa could have died. At 10:15 a.m. Richard called, trying anger first. You abandoned your sister. You left her without transportation. Marcus kept his voice level. She was supposed to be sleeping. It was 4 a.m. There was no job interview. Richard's response came too quick, too defensive. How do you know that? You weren't there. The fortress wall held. Marcus didn't reveal the dashcam yet. At 11:47 a.m. Patricia tried guilt. Your sister is traumatized. She has whiplash, bruised ribs. And you only care about money? The coffee from the insurance office machine tasted bitter and cold. Marcus drank it anyway. That afternoon his parents arrived at his apartment unannounced. They brought Vanessa. She was crying. At 3:30 p.m. they stood in his doorway like a tribunal. Patricia, Richard, Vanessa, a unified front backlit by hallway light that cast shadows inward into his small apartment. Their demand arrived without preamble. Marcus should pay the $57,000 insurance gap because he had the better job. Vanessa's tears streamed with practiced desperation. I'm so sorry, but I can't afford this. I don't have anything. You're my big brother. The manipulation had been refined over 28 years of practice. Make Marcus feel responsible for everyone's failures. Richard deployed the family obligation argument. Family takes care of family. We took care of you for 18 years. Patricia's calculation was spoken aloud, a spreadsheet recited as moral imperative. Your construction job pays $78,000 a year. You can get a loan. Marcus replied quietly. I already have the loan. For the SUV that no longer exists. Richard's threat followed like night after day. If you don't help your sister, she'll be financially ruined. DUI on her record, massive debt, no way forward. Patricia added her own ultimatum. And we'll make sure the whole family knows you abandoned her. The mockery phrase evolved in real time. Marcus always lands on his feet was now used as justification for why he should sacrifice everything. His competence had become evidence of his obligation to subsidize everyone else's chaos. Vanessa's final plea came with the exhausted petulance of someone who'd never been denied. I made a mistake. Don't you ever make mistakes? Or are you just perfect? The trap was complete. Pay $57,000 to protect the person who destroyed his property, or be exiled from his family as the selfish one who valued money over blood. Marcus asked one question. Did Vanessa tell you the truth about that night? Vanessa's face flickered. Just a moment. Fear crossed her features before she could control it. Patricia snapped, her voice rising to fill the small space. The truth? The truth is she had an accident trying to help herself, and you're counting dollars. Richard moved closer, crowding. We need your answer. Today. Vanessa's perfume, expensive, bought with his parents' money, overwhelmed the apartment, cloying and nauseating. The silence after their ultimatum stretched thin. Marcus's hand rested on his laptop. He turned it around. On the screen, paused at 4:23 a.m., was the dashcam footage. Vanessa's face, laughing. The speedometer, 68 miles per hour. The timestamp. Everything. Marcus pressed play. The apartment filled with sound, Vanessa's voice, drunk and mocking, cutting through music and distance. Marcus is such a tight ass. The interior camera showed the club dress, the smeared makeup, the friends filming, the reckless laughter. Timestamp, 4:23 a.m., hours after any legitimate job interview would have concluded. The speed display remained visible in the corner, an accusation that required no narration. 68 in a 35. Vanessa's face on screen, slurring, he always lands on his feet. Watch this, then the crash. Airbags. Screaming. The apartment's silence after Marcus paused the video was deafening, a vacuum that pulled all oxygen from the room. Patricia's face drained of color. Vanessa backed toward the door, her voice rising in desperate defense. You were spying on me. That's illegal. Marcus remained calm, his tone unchanged. It's my vehicle. Dashcams are legal. Cloud backup is automatic. Richard tried recovery, his voice less certain now. This doesn't change that she's your sister. Marcus held up his phone, documents queued and ready. Police report. BAC 0.11. DUI charge. Reckless driving. Running a red light. All documented. He opened a folder on his desk, printed pages organized with tabs, each one a refutation of their narrative. Here's the insurance denial letter. Your daughter's DUI voided my comprehensive coverage. Another document emerged. Here's the loan statement. $71,000 remaining. $14,000 salvage value. $57,000 gap. Patricia's voice shook now, rage mixing with something that might have been shame. You're going to use this against your own sister. Marcus met her eyes. I'm not using anything. I'm protecting myself from paying for a drunk driving accident I warned you would happen. The fortress revealed its full architecture. Marcus pulled up text messages from 8 months prior. His words to Patricia, Vanessa asked to borrow my car. I said no. She has a history of reckless driving. Patricia's response, preserved in digital amber, you're paranoid. She's matured. Another text from 6 months ago, Marcus to Richard, if Vanessa ever takes my vehicle without permission, I will pursue legal action. Richard's dismissal, stop being dramatic. The laptop screen illuminated 3 faces now, shame, anger, fear, each expression a confession. Papers rustled as Marcus laid out document after document, each one another stone in the wall between him and their expectations. Vanessa's perfume had become cloying, nauseating, the scent of exposure and consequence. Richard tried one last play. What do you want from us? Money? An apology? What? Marcus closed the laptop. I want you to leave. And I want you to tell the family the truth. They left. Vanessa's tears were real now, not sadness but fury at being trapped by evidence she couldn't deny. That evening the family group chat ignited differently. Marcus posted a simple message, for anyone interested in the full story of the accident, I have dashcam footage and police reports. Happy to share. He attached a 30-second clip, Vanessa at 68 miles per hour, drunk, mocking him by name. The chat went silent for 47 minutes. Record length. Then the tide shifted with the inevitability of truth meeting vacuum. Uncle Frank, Patricia's brother, Jesus Christ, Patricia. What were you thinking? Aunt Linda, Richard's sister, you tried to make Marcus pay for this? After she stole his car drunk? Cousin Jennifer, I've been defending Vanessa for an hour and she was drunk? You lied to all of us. The mockery phrase transformed in real time, passing through the family like linguistic alchemy. Uncle Frank again, Marcus always lands on his feet, yeah, because he's the only one in that family who plans ahead. Cousin Jennifer, Marcus always lands on his feet, because he doesn't drive drunk at 4 a.m. The phrase became compliment, recognition of competence in contrast to chaos. 3 days later Patricia sent a single text, the family knows the truth. Vanessa is facing her consequences. We won't ask you for money. No apology, but the fortress had held. 1 week later Vanessa pleaded guilty to DUI, lost her license for 18 months, paid $8,400 in fines and legal fees. Patricia and Richard co-signed a loan to cover her portion. $8,400, not $57,000. Marcus filed an insurance claim under his parents' homeowner's policy. Legal principle: they'd taken the keys at their residence, making them liable for subsequent damages. His attorney's consultation was brief and decisive: strong case for recovering the $57,000 gap. 2 months later Marcus received a settlement offer, $45,000 paid over 3 years. He accepted. Not about the money, about the principle that actions have consequences, and documentation proves it. 3 months after the accident his parents invited him to a family dinner. Marcus declined. His response arrived via text, simple and final: "I always land on my feet. That's easier to do without people trying to knock me down." A year later Marcus bought another SUV, used this time, paid in cash, dashcam pre-installed before he drove it off the lot. His parents never asked to borrow it. Vanessa never spoke to him again. He considered both outcomes a victory, the kind that asks for no celebration. If you've ever felt the weight of family expectations crushing your boundaries, or wondered whether protecting yourself makes you selfish, you're not alone. Sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones who'll bleed you dry if you let them. Preparation isn't paranoia. It's survival. And documentation isn't distrust. It's the difference between being heard and being dismissed. If this story resonated, there's more where this came from. Subscribe to hear more Vindication stories where preparation meets payoff, and boundaries become freedom. 2 years after the incident Marcus's life had rebuilt itself with the quiet permanence of stone. The $45,000 settlement was allocated strategically: $20,000 to emergency fund, $15,000 to investment account, $10,000 to legal consultation retainer. He established a personal policy enforced without exception: all family financial interactions required written agreements, witnessed signatures, terms that couldn't be rewritten by selective memory. His younger cousin Devin reached out privately, away from family knowledge. 19 years old and facing pressure to co-sign a loan for his girlfriend. The family was pressuring him to show trust, as if financial suicide was evidence of emotional commitment. Marcus met him at a coffee shop, brought a folder containing the complete documentation of his own family incident. "This is what happens when you trust without protecting yourself. Learn from my mistake." Devin didn't co-sign. The relationship ended badly, but his credit survived. 3 other family members quietly sought Marcus's advice over the following year. The pattern emerged like geological strata: the family's financial chaos was generational, inherited and perpetuated through a culture that confused boundary setting with selfishness. Marcus's fortress showed others a way out, a blueprint for survival that required no permission. His construction mentor James, now 54, began using the story in training sessions for new workers. Your family will love you broke. Set boundaries. Document everything. Your future self will thank you. The phrase, "Marcus always lands on his feet," spread beyond the family, taking on new life in workplace conversations. At construction sites, when someone mentioned family drama, co-workers would say, "Pull a Marcus, get it in writing." It became shorthand for intelligent self-protection, wisdom that required no explanation. Marcus's personal relationships improved without family interference. He dated seriously for the first time, meeting Rachel at 31. She was a paralegal who appreciated his documentation habits with the professional recognition of someone who'd seen too many preventable disasters. "Most guys have red flags," she joked. "You have backup cameras and cloud storage. It's weirdly attractive." His apartment remained modest but became truly his. No family photos on the walls. No guilt displayed on shelves. No surprise visits because boundaries were clear and enforced. The filing system was now digital and encrypted, accessible from anywhere, vulnerable to nothing. When teaching Devin about boundaries, Marcus's voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who paid for his education in full. The steering wheel of his new SUV felt different, paid in full, keys on his own ring, no debt connecting him to anyone's judgment. 5 years after the incident, Marcus received a wedding invitation. Vanessa was getting married. His parents requested his presence to show family unity, as if his attendance could paper over the gap between what happened and what they wished had happened. Marcus declined. He sent a card with no return address. Inside, one sentence. The wedding card contained one line, "Wishing you well. Protect what you build." Marcus never attended. Neither side pushed. Year 7 brought Patricia's health decline, diabetes complications born of stress and poor management, and perhaps the weight of maintaining narratives that required constant energy. Richard called for the first time in 4 years. "Your mother is sick. She wants to see you." Marcus visited once. Hospital room. 30 minutes. Patricia lay smaller in the bed, weaker now, her voice lacking its former edge. "I never apologized. I should have." Marcus replied without hesitation. "You taught me the most important lesson: family is who protects you, not who shares your blood." Patricia cried. Marcus didn't stay for it. That was the last time they spoke. She passed 8 months later, her funeral attended by family members who'd chosen sides years ago and forgotten why. Marcus attended, sitting in the back row, leaving before the reception. No reconciliation, no dramatic forgiveness scene. Just boundaries held with the consistency that made them real. Vanessa never spoke to him, even at the funeral, their silence now a permanent condition requiring no maintenance. Richard remarried 2 years later, moved to Arizona, sent Christmas cards Marcus didn't answer. The correspondence arrived annually, each card a small hope that distance could heal what proximity had broken. Marcus's life became the quiet success his family had claimed he'd always achieve, though they'd meant it as accusation rather than prediction. At 35 he was a construction project manager earning $127,000 annually, owned a townhouse, carried zero debt. He married Rachel in a small ceremony attended by friends they'd chosen. Devon was there, now 26, successful in finance, his toast simple and true, to Marcus, who taught me that landing on your feet isn't luck, it's preparation. The phrase had fully transformed, traveling from mockery to honor, from excuse to inspiration. Marcus's final reflection came alone in his home office, looking at the old folder labeled "Family." He hadn't opened it in 3 years, didn't need to anymore. The fortress was no longer external documentation but internal certainty, a bone-deep knowledge that his boundaries were legitimate and his protection was earned. His parenting philosophy formed before the child arrived: teach boundaries early, model self-respect, never demand sacrifice from those you claim to love. Last seen, Marcus in his garage, installing a dashcam in Rachel's car under LED work lights. She watched from the doorway, smiling. Still protecting everything. Marcus secured the final connection, tested the power. Everything worth keeping. The small green recording light blinked on, steady and eternal. He closed the car door, then the garage door, then turned off the light. In the darkness, the dashcam's green light glowed steady, a small guardian that asked nothing and protected everything, the only inheritance Marcus ever needed.